Hello, Brian back again. You can't get rid of me. I'm back to do episode number 6, Lists from My Living Room. Today's episode is going to be featuring the sadly late, great Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. So I will be having the Heartbreakers albums and the 3 Tom Petty solo albums. They're called solo albums. I mean, they are solo albums, but you'd get Mike Campbell on there for collaborations and things of that nature. Just adjusting the cap a little bit. Let's say thank you to anybody who is watching. It's a very, very exclusive club. It's a little pathetic at this point, but that is my life. So let us continue on, because I'm just determined to keep doing this. Like I've said, it's a labor of love. I love music, and I love to talk about music, and I like to throw out my dumb opinions about music. So there's a lot of albums. Tom Petty around for a long time, and so he had 16 albums that are going to be on this list today. So I will try to move through them quickly, but it's going to be long just based on the number of albums that are here for review. The caveat, as usual, being that no live or compilation albums, best ofs. One of Tom Petty's and the Heartbreakers' best songs are on a greatest hits album. That's Mary Jane's Last Dance. So we'll throw that out there. One of my favorite songs of his came, in a. You may hear my cat here scratching away at my very beautiful couch. But one of their best songs came on that greatest hits album, kind of mid-career, well, later career, I'd say, in the 90s, mid-90s. But it's not going to appear here on this list. And as usual, the list is more of a personal preference, like anybody's list would be, I guess, and not necessarily this album is their best album. And in this case, I think that you will see that what I have in some spots are arguably not the best album in terms of overall, but it's the one that I like the best. As usual, I'm representing one team or another. It's kind of become my thing. So let's get to it. I'm already 4 minutes into this and I haven't even rated one, so time for me to be quiet and just talk about the albums. Coming in last at number 16 is from 2006, Highway Companion. This is one of the 3 Tom Petty solo albums. I don't particularly care for this. I'm just going to turn my phone sound off because people are texting me, because I'm very, very popular. Despite what my views say, this one I wasn't a huge fan of. It didn't strike me that there's nothing really on this that I love. Jack is good, Saving Grace is okay, but it's very acoustic. It's not very rocky, and I find that when I watched it, when I listened to it, it just kind of, it's not that interesting. It's kind of boring at times, and I really would love to like this album, but compared to his other two solo albums and the rest of the catalog, this one just doesn't kind of do it for me. And something's got to come in last. I say that almost every show. At number 15, from 2010, Mojo. There's nothing wrong with this album. Nothing wrong with it. It's got good songs, a lot of songs, 15 songs on this CD. And I won't start listing them. It's solid. It's Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, who know how to craft a song, know how to play good songs in their career. But it's one that I think something's got to be at the bottom of the list, or, in this case, second from the bottom. Mojo's the one. But well worth your listen. Well worth it. Same kind of thing with this one, although this one I think has really exceptional songs in some cases. Hypnotic Eye from 2014. Just try to get some of the flair off of that with the white cover. You can see it's freaking everybody out. It's the SCTV thing. Anyway, good songs on this: American Dream, Plan B, Red River, You Get Me High. Strong album. Strong album, certainly, for an album later in their career. This is, sadly, the last Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album. But good job. Good job on that one. At number 13, and this was kind of tough because this is pretty good, but like I said, when you've got so many albums and you've been around so long and you've had such a great career, there's going to be stuff that's good that's going to come later on the list. That's Wildflowers. This is the second Tom Petty solo album. It has some killer songs on it. You Don't Know How It Feels, You Wreck Me. And then it kind of has a lot of songs that are middle of the road. Honeybee is a good song. House in the Woods I like. Crawling Back to You. It's very solid. I don't play it as much as I did when it first came out. It's one of those albums that I don't put it on as much, and it's a little dated. I find it a little bit dated. But very good. Very good. At number 12, 2002. It was a good album. The Last DJ. There's the back. There's Tom. I guess that's Tom on the front, too. It's kind of a little bit of a concept album about the music business and where they saw the music business was at this point. But mainly how it was all driven by money and executives and silliness. The Last DJ, that's a good song. Money Becomes King. Joe, very good song. So it's very good, but again, it's one of those ones that I stopped listening to as much after the initial release, where I listened to it a lot. It's a little bit of an acquired taste, I think, mainly because of the concept album portion of it, that maybe some people didn't quite dig it, but it's very good. So we're going to try to move along here. At number 11, and this is a hard one to slot because at various times I've listened to it a lot and then kind of not listened to it. This one from 1978, You're Gonna Get It. Very simple album cover. I'll try to not cover up the title. You're Gonna Get It. It is it's got decent production compared to the debut album, but it doesn't have the songs. Side 2 is where the better songs come in. I Need to Know, which Stevie Nicks also used to play live. Listen to Her Heart is on here. But really, while there's good rock music on this, there's not a lot that's memorable. It's one of those albums that I think people like because it represents an era of their lives. And really, when this one came out, I probably wasn't as into Tom Petty as I became just shortly after this. So that probably brings it down a little bit. But very solid for an album, their second album in 1978. 85 brought us this one. If you'd have asked me, years ago or decades ago now, what would have been last on my list, it probably would have been this album. But over the years, this is one that really has grown on me. I've come to appreciate it a lot more as the years have gone on. But when it first came out, I didn't enjoy it much, and that is Southern Accents. It's not nearly as rock as we'd come to expect from Tom Petty. It's kind of mellow at times, but it does have songs like Rebels, and it's got the monster hit Don't Come Around Here No More with the crazy video, the Alice in Wonderland type video. But it was songs like Southern Accents and Dogs on the Run and Make It Better and things like that as I got older and I started to listen to it more over the years, that I appreciated this one more. It comes in kind of middle of the pack, obviously, but where I would have put it last when I was younger, I now see it for what it is, and it's solid. At number 9, that was number 10, Southern Accents, by the way. I think maybe I said it, I don't know. Number 9, we're going with the 1976 debut, simply titled Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Pretty good debut album for these guys. It's got, one of their best songs, Breakdown, on it. It's also got American Girl. So those are two songs that are, big hits of theirs or favorites of theirs. I don't know if American Girl was that huge a hit when it first was released, but you've got songs like The Wild One Forever. That's one of my favorite Tom Petty songs. Stranger Than the Night, anything that's rock and roll. Very solid. A little thin on the production side, I find. Band on the back. But good debut album. They would go on to do a lot better than this. They built upon it, which is what you want, I guess, from great bands. Here's an interesting one. I don't know where a lot of fans would put this, but I've always loved it. This one from 1996 is the soundtrack to the movie She's the One. An underrated movie. Not a fantastic movie. Let me see if I can get that in focus. I had to keep the CDs in focus and myself out of focus. That would be probably better for all of you watching. I like the movie a lot. It's one of those guilty pleasures, I guess you'd call it. Some people think it's a terrible movie. I think it's underrated. I think it's entertaining. But the soundtrack was fantastic for this. And it really is what made the movie more enjoyable, was the fact that they had this really good soundtrack from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. You get some repeats of the same songs, but different versions of it. Walls is one that repeats throughout the movie a lot. The best song on here is Change the Locks. Excellent song. But I'm looking at just the list. It Grew Up Fast, Zero from Outer Space, Hope You Never, California. There some really good songs and some nice little instrumental things. I guess probably was Ben Montench does a nice little piano piece at the end of this. Strong enough to come in at number 8 on this list. Number 7 from 1982. At the time, this one doesn't really stand up, I find, to the ones that are ahead of it on the list from the era. But it is a very good album, and that is Long After Dark. I'm losing part of the album there. Long After Dark. Album cover on the front and back. Really, it only has the one major hit. That's You Got Lucky, but it's a very good song. Overall, though, it's a solid album without huge monster hits like some of the ones that they had. It's very straightforward. It's good rock and roll music. I enjoy it. I play it a lot. There's not a whole lot to say about it. It's nothing really other than to say it's good and solid, and this is where it winds up on the list, I guess. I'd give it more info, but I'm trying to get through this at a reasonable amount of time. So, in 1991, we got this little gem, and this is one of, I think, 4 albums on this list that I actually only own on cassette, because I still play cassettes, and I still, until it stops playing, I'm going to probably not replace it. That is Into the Great Wide Open. This is got some nice acoustic stuff on it, along with, the Tom Petty sound Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers sound. It came after Tom's first solo album and did huge business. I mean, look at the songs here. I mean, Learning to Fly, big hit. Into the Great Wide Open. Two Gunslingers, a song that maybe casual fans don't know. One of my favorite Tom Petty songs, Two Gunslingers. But it does a nice job. It certainly is at times very reminiscent of the Byrds, who were obviously influences on Tom Petty. It's a strong album. I still play it quite a bit. Good videos to it too. I like it. So at number 5 from 1987, this one is Let Me Up, I've Had Enough. I like this one a lot. It has my favorite Tom Petty song on it, which is Jammin' Me. Always great to hear that one live when they would bring it out. But it's got a lot of songs that were not hits, but I enjoy very much. The title track, Think About Me, is good. It'll All Work Out, The Damage You've Done, Trains. I think this is solid. I think maybe not everybody, I think a lot of people only know Jammin' Me if they're not huge fans of the band. But there's a lot of good stuff on here. And that's why it's at number 5. So now we're up into just some spectacular stuff. At number 4 from 1999. This one was very surprising, but fantastic album. Echo. This a later career effort. No, I didn't see this I didn't see this coming, that they would have one of my favorite, Heartbreakers albums that late in their career. But there's pretty much nothing bad on this. Swingin', my favorite song on the album. You're looking Free Girl Now, Room at the Top, the title track Echo. I like Billy the Kid, I Don't Want to Fight. It's such a good effort that it may seem odd to people that I would have this album this high. But the tour that this album produced, great tour too. I think it's an underrated album in their catalog. Highly recommend it if you don't have it, and if you're watching this, I gotta figure that you do. At number 3 from 1989, sold 1 billion copies. Full Moon Fever. Had you asked me maybe in 1991 about this, I would have told you I'm sick of it. But I played this to death when it came out, and the radio played it to death, and the videos were playing constantly. And I think that after a year or two of hearing this, I kind of said, okay, enough for a while. I mean, let's just read this track list and you'll see how great this album was. This was his first actual solo album. Free Fallin', I Won't Back Down, Love Is a Long Road, Facing the Crowd, Running Down a Dream. So right off that, side one, there's like 4 hit songs on there. Side 2, Feel a Whole Lot Better. That's the Bird song. Of course, Tom, obviously a Birds fan. You're So Bad, Depending on You, The Apartment Song, All Right for Now, A Mind with a Heart of Its Own, and Zombie Zoo. Zombie Zoo, I like that song, fun song. Sold a Ton, great production, great videos. This very inspired at the time, but like a lot of albums that were such huge hits then, I had to take a break from it. But when it came to doing this, I'd have to give it its due. It has to be where it is. Down to the last 2. I could make an argument for either one of these 2, and I'm sure that a lot of people would make the argument for one of them to be number 1. It's probably not the one that I have number 1. This is a case where I think you could say that the album I have at number 2 is, in fact, their best album. It just doesn't happen to be my favorite album of theirs. But from 1979, the sensational Damn the Torpedoes. And there's so much great rock on this. Great album cover. Let's just look at this. A lot of Tom Petty albums start off very quickly with a lot of best songs right off the top, and this one's no different. Look at this. Refugee, Here Comes My Girl, Even the Losers. Those are the first 3 songs on the album. You know, top that. Shadow of a Doubt, Century City closes it out, but then you start side 2 with Don't Do Me Like That. Right? You Tell Me, What Are You Doing in My Life, Louisiana Rain. Nice little song. I remember when this came out, when I was a kid, it got played to death on the radio, and I never tired of this one. I hold it in very high regard. You know, Tom Petty and Jimmy Iovine producing it. Love it. Great. And so, one of these enigmas where my favorite album I don't own on vinyl or CD. At number 1 is Hard Promises from 1981. This album was a big part of my, soundtrack of my youth. Even though I was more of a hard rock metal guy. I love this. Your track list, The Waiting, A Woman in Love. So 1, 2 right off the bat. 2 of his best songs. Night Watchman, Something Big, King's Road. All good, lesser known songs. Inside 2, there's really, it's like Letting You Go, A Thing About You, Insider with Stevie Nicks. So it was recorded, I guess, at the same time as they did Stop Dragging My Heart Around for Stevie Nicks' album. And it was kind of like, well, I'll sing one for your album, you sing one, and I'll go on my album. The Criminal Kind, love The Criminal Kind. You can still change your mind. A lot of lesser known songs on this one that I really consider to be very enjoyable songs. But this one, like I said, is probably a case of where it wouldn't be most people's selection for Tom Petty's best album, but it's one that I have a great deal of nostalgia for, and I played a lot and really have always enjoyed. A bit of a controversial album, to give just a little bit of history on it. This one caused a huge rift between Tom and the record company. It was scheduled to be one of the first albums to go from the $8.99 sale price to $9.99. Now this is in 1981. I don't know why it was such a huge deal, because most record stores, when we actually had record stores, would put new albums on sale, and in those days they would usually be about $5.99, $6.99, and then once they, after a while, then they go back into the regular prices. But this was going to be a big deal because Tom felt it's going to kill the record sales, because it's going to be $1 more than all the other new releases had been for the years leading up to it. I think one of the other ones was the soundtrack to Xanadu with ELO and Olivia Newton-John. That was one of the other ones that was going to be at the new price. So if you can't see it on here, but over here where there's the price on this bin of records in the record store, it says $8.98 or something, I think. And they even considered calling this album $8.98 at the time, but went with Hard Promises. So there you have it. Another list. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. If you do, maybe share it with your friends, and let's try to see if we can get a few more views on these shows. I've got a couple coming up of a couple of my favorite bands. I've been sort of saving them. Not that Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers aren't among my favorites, but my ultimate top couple of bands. But those are going to be hard to really slot, so I've kind of held off on those, but I'm saying I'm going to be doing them, which telling you this is useless because I'm not telling you what the bands are yet. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep rocking.